Good evening, welcome to Show Studio. This is our Christopher Raeburn panel for Autumn-Winter 2015. We have a splendid selection of panellists here with us. Harris, if you'd like to start the intros.
Hi, I'm Harris Elliot, Creative Director and Stylist. Glad to be here today.
Hi, I'm Marion Hume, International Fashion Editor of the Australian Financial Review.
I'm Steve Salter, I'm Head of Socials at IAD.
And I work for Complex Magazine in the UK. So, being Christopher Raeburn, who I'm very excited to be doing a review of, I think he's fantastic, well not review, panel on, I think he's a fantastic designer, but I thought it'd be really good because he is Mr. Coat, or it feels like he's Mr. Coat, Mr. Jacket. And I thought it'd be really good to chat for a little bit about the centrality to menswear of the coat. How, like, you know, obviously we don't have handbags, and it kind of feels like the coat is the item in the male wardrobe. Or maybe that's total rubbish. Like, Harris, what do you think about this?
No, it makes sense because most boys, even though they're changing their attitudes to fashion, kind of you can hide behind a good coat and look good in a good coat. So I think it's a staple in the men's wardrobe. Like I say, because we don't have bags, a good coat can set off whatever else may or may not be, lurking underneath.
I personally think it's something like the language of a coat is understandable for someone that doesn't understand fashion. Like if you can go into a pub or something, and I've got friends that have no vocabulary of fashion, no understanding of fashion, but they can get excited about a good coat. So I kind of think it's one garment that kind of transcends those barriers of fashion. Like sometimes it puts up.
Is there a kind of breakdown then between men that wear kind of North Face and all of those things and men that wear coats?
Ooh.
It is one, you know, kind of
You
a
mean
fashion
like a
person
trench?
now would wear a really gorgeous coat.
Or North Face if they were, you know,
if it was a bit chilly.
or being a bit not like, I know we're a bit past it, but if you've been a bit normcore, you would wear North Face.
A bit normcore.
I think we can bury that now. It's
Yeah,
gone.
I know.
We can move
Yeah.
on.
Norm
There's something
Face.
very smart about a man in a coat, though. We had a very good demonstration of it a few minutes ago, actually, when Mr. Nick Knight walked through in his coat, looking very elegant. So
That's true.
there we can see that a coat is a very strong sartorial semaphore or something.
Yeah, I mean, coats, linking to Raeburn or not, things like pea coats kind of rule over the male kind of designers. Collection season in, season out, so a good pea coat or a good M16 or MA1, the male jacket or coat, it sets the silhouette for guys, like Steve said, whether you're in fashion or not, you're going to end up with a coat that fits into that description, so you can still look like you're on or off trend because that kind of aesthetic's going to fit into your wardrobe one way or not.
But also, if you don't have the coat, you're not really the guy, right? Because, like, I remember, you know, when you're a kid and you're like little and tiny and you're learning what's cool, maybe but it's like the Fonz is like, you know, here's like his leather jacket. That's what it was. You know, James Dean is the, oh Jesus, how have I forgotten? The Barracuda, Harrington. Yeah, you know, like Liam Gallagher, god of coat, you know, because he's from Manchester and it's raining.
With his Parker.
I'm getting confused here, because surely James Dean wore a jacket. Is a jacket and a coat the same thing?
Oh, well, yeah.
In the menswear vocabulary, because
No,
you're
you're
coming
right,
from
you're
what
right.
the women's wear, and they're two different things.
You're right.
Yeah, Daryoush is clouding that, but I can see where he's going from.
You are right.
I'm not. I'm sorry.
I mean,
out of
no, you're correct.
I'm just the queen of confusion sitting.
No, you're correct. But I do mean outerwear, really.
Who is the ultimate? Like, if we were to call up an image of like the ultimate coat wearer, maybe a Hollywood image, or, and you're not allowed to answer Steve McQueen. I can't actually visualise him in a good coat. But who's the person that you all have as the coat wearer?
Well, for me, it's Chris Lowe from the Pet Shop Boys. Like,
yeah,
ultimate god coat wearer. Like, he did a performance at the Palladium and he had this rubber, kind of extraordinary rubber, I can't remember if it's Issey Miyake, but like inflatable, or Michiko. He was very known for his Michiko Kashino. I think this might have been Issey Miyake. But anyway, inflatable black and it just looked insane, and, you know, because he never did anything. He just pressed the keyboard and didn't speak. So he was very, very, very good at a coat. And LTJ Bookham for his Hilfiger coats, because it was all about the Hilfiger sign, 90s drum and bass.
I guess for me it would be probably Public Enemy, with that kind of the M65 jackets that they'd be wearing. It's kind of very much that kind of, yeah, the epaulettes from that kind of shape of it would be, yeah, coat-wise. Or, as you say, Liam Gallagher with his parka, which is just that statement which kind of rings true and true. Or Humphrey Bogart in his rainmat, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're talking language I understand.
I'm Liam Gallagher, because I'm a 90s kid, and also maybe like a Cary Grant, kind of like a mohair, camel, kind of thigh-length jacket. I'm seeing.
I was thinking Dennis Hopper. He gave good coat.
Yeah.
He was good in a coat.
He was.
But it's also quite an exciting time because the bomber jacket is finally falling off.
You think?
Yeah. So, like, you know, you've now, because, like, you had that, like, sheepskin thing, like, over the last 12 months, you've had the sheepskin come back. You've had a kind of rush of excitement over Stone Island. You've had, I don't know, they're called car coats, or, you know, there's like a lot of kind of 3/4 length coats going on. I was looking at DMX the other day, and he had a rather splendid coat. A sort of maroon number. But like there's a lot, like it's really good that the bomber jacket's kind of, you know, and it's about having a big...
Massive, the silhouette there.
Yeah, super exaggerated.
Yeah.
At the Woolmark menswear prize yesterday, I don't know if you guys went, but there were 5, you know, there's the 5 finalists, and they were all doing like really big coats that were like flashbacks to like late 70s Armani, those really big coats that I haven't seen for ages. And they actually look really elegant.
Well, they do.
I think the silhouette's great, but there's only certain guys that can carry it off, because if you're a short guy, those big massive silhouettes, as elegant as they look, if you're not over 6 foot, then it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, you need some size
You
for a
do
big
need
sweep.
to be, yeah.
Well, like the double-breasted jacket. That if you were double-breasted suits, not meant to work unless you're tall.
I think those can, if you just, I think it's always about going and finding a tailor that can like still nip it in to make sure it fits your shape.
It's your frame. You've got to have the right frame. You can't be like short and squat. If you've got like a quite a lithe frame, you can
definitely
work it. But
What's like most loved jackets? Because the thing is, I feel like that's the difference with a coat and a jacket in menswear. I feel like you have most loved ever, or there were periods in your life where the coat or the jacket like in a way that a pair of jeans or a t-shirt or sweater, it just doesn't.
So you're saying which one, coat or jacket?
Yeah, no. Tell us about one.
I think I was that kind of like East is East kind of kid with the parka, kind of growing up, was like refusing to take it off and like wearing it forever.
Yeah.
Just because it was so embedded within the music that I was into at the time.
Right.
So that's my one.
For me, it's a leather jacket. Grew up not liking leather apart from seeing the kind of American Air Force ones, and then when Neil Barrett started doing leathers, kind of the boiled wash thing, I kind of completely swung over and was kind of, and now there's kind of not often I'm not without a leather, not far away or layered underneath everything else that I'm wearing anyway. So.
I like those classics, and in the way that classics get kind of stolen and their messages get, you know, taken by style tribes, but Crombies and those kind of coats, when you actually look at them, they're very elegant. I like that kind of coat on a man. Or a peacoat. What, are peacoats, are you into peacoats? Is a peacoat a part of your wardrobe?
No, it's not at the moment.
Because it's one of those ones that, you know, we've stolen, that women have really stolen from menswear. It looks so great in the women's collections, very now in the women's collections. But
I'm trying to think of the last peacoat I saw on the runway. Maybe Valentino, possibly, someone that kind of luxe way, but no one in terms of those kind of emerging designers.
So does it signal kind of grand, wealthy?
A little bit. Maybe that cycle has not gone round enough, far enough for it to kind of be kind of played with and experimented.
Oh, time to look on eBay then while no one else is
Yeah,
looking.
I think
Yeah.
it's still there. No, I'll still wear one from time to time, but yeah.
All right, well, maybe we should look at the Grand Master of...
The coat remixer himself.
Well, maybe it'd be good to just ask for a second what all three of you, why are we excited about Christopher Raeburn? Because I feel like he's really quite a British success story. That perhaps because he's not going to be Alexander McQueen or John Galliano, that perhaps in some ways, I mean, people have written and talked about how fantastic he is, but you know, he's not sort of a new...
He's not fabulous in that way.
He's not fabulous and he's not a new demographic,
Yeah.
but he's just really extraordinary at creating he's not a subculture, a walking subculture, you know, but he's like really extraordinary at creating these amazing masculine items that are incredibly well crafted. That's why I'm excited about him. I don't know, Steve, do you...
For me, it's just the admiration of the product itself. It kind of speaks for itself. It doesn't need to have a grand story, or it doesn't need to surprise us season on season. We kind of almost know the realms he's going to kind of experiment and play with. It's not going to shock us, but the product is so good, and it kind of translates from catwalk images alone. But when you see the product itself and get to try it on, see the construction, it makes like a journalist's job quite easy to write about it, because it has a story. Each garment has a story anyway in terms of the fabrics he uses and the references that he's drawing upon. A simple thing. One jacket you could write like 1,000 words on, and it not to be like a dull essay. It could be, you know, super interesting.
Wow, that's quite amazing. Marion?
I think he has a sort of wonderful masculine elegance, that he has that thing that when you see him, as in Christopher the Man, in London, he always looks very smart, but you imagine that in his mind he's going out on these extraordinary adventures to the Antarctic or something, but he'd still manage to look quite smart. You know, there's something, it's an old-fashioned word, but I think they're kind of close for gentlemen. And in that way of, you know, in the old times of gentlemen that would go out and do things, they're close to go out and explore the world, and quite exciting for that, I think. I you know, obviously don't know as much about him as you guys do, but anything I've seen I really like.
But for really modern gentlemen, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. A new kind of it, a modern kind of adventurer.
Harris?
Not trying to conquer things.
Not trying to conquer
No,
things.
I mean, because that's a
Just
rather
see.
old-fashioned
Yeah.
idea, isn't it? That, you know,
Just visiting.
yeah, just visiting and leaving no mark.
He's not
that
sticking
kind of
a
modern
flag in.
adventure.
He's just admiring.
Harris.
For me, it's the military aesthetic, which he sticks true to his vision season in, season out, and as Steve says, his pieces are incredibly well crafted. He's like a real stickler for details, so kind of you'd be hard pressed to find fault in the way that he makes his garments, because he runs such a tight ship. But I'm a big military or that kind of devotee, so for me it's that side of it. But how he always manages to find a new angle and a new spin on it, and manage to represent. He'll still have a Parker season in, season out, but I guess there's also the maturity in the sense, in the way that he works, that he doesn't need to keep reinventing the wheel, but just reappropriate what he does. And then I think anyone who creates, if you can reappropriate your own work, then that's the best place to draw from. And he's got a perfect source material of the military to pick from. So yeah, I'm a big military head, so I love it for that element.
And he really uses quite a lot of advanced materials, doesn't he? I mean, I think last time I was speaking to him, he was talking to me about using some material from the Japanese space program or something. Like, he's quite, you know.
But whatever it is, it always still fits back in with kind of the same. It's not, he doesn't, there's enough of a gene pool of kind of fabrics and research that he picks from, that he's able to still fit it back into the same process. He won't start picking from like Japanese farmers, say, because it won't fit in, but it will still be, still from that military or technical kind of base point.
So let's have a look.
So this collection, I know the theme is based on rafts. So some of the the orange jackets are actually taken from actual rafts. So he's got some rafts, I'm not even sure where from, and he's literally cut those up and re-put them back together as jackets. So yeah, what we're seeing are actual elements of decommissioned raft stock.
And speaking to him, he gets so excited when he finds like a new supplier type thing. Like a couple of seasons ago, it was like the parachute fabrics that he kind of appropriated and stuff. He's got a whole network of people that almost kind of not work for him, because I think they work with other suppliers and stuff as well, but they know that he's the man to get, you know, to kind of.
I think what was interesting, he was talking to me about pockets as well, and I think that's quite interesting because, you know, a coat is, you don't really, I mean, I have a backpack, but you don't always want a bag. And, you know, it's so good to have a coat that isn't ruined by, you know, I think that's quite an important missing element of the science of coats, is that if you ruin it by carrying something, it's kind of not, it's not going to work.
But I guess that's the other point about being a boy or being a man, and actually, if that coat is your one item that's your statement, you haven't got your, it isn't the bag, it's the coat which defines your shape or your silhouette. You want to make sure that stays impeccable because you want to be like the Fonz, or you want to be James Dean, you want to look cool.
Well, the taking out, the interaction with the pockets. I remember having this friend who would take his cigarettes and his Zippo out of his denim jacket pocket, and I just loved that action. But I just always had to have my cigarettes and my Zippo in that pocket because it just felt so good.
Even if you were left-handed and not right-handed, you'd still do it that way.
Well, you didn't smoke.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have, because bomber jackets, like proper bomber jackets, have terrible pockets. So you use that one, and then you just think, God, the people at the bar just think I'm pretentious. But it's kind of nice. Yeah. Steve, what are we thinking?
I'm trying to work out the print here, what fabric it is, because this is obviously not the raft fabric that we saw in the first few looks.
Are they sharks?
I definitely know shark print does feature heavily.
Yeah.
I think his initial inspiration is the idea of the collection is like 25 men being marooned on a raft.
In a shark-infested sea.
It must be a shark-infested sea.
That's a bit Angelina Jolie right now.
It is, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
true.
I guess that wasn't his inspiration.
Why is sharks topical?
Well, that movie. I mean,
Oh,
I haven't
okay.
even seen that movie, but isn't he on a raft in the sea? There's bound to be sharks.
He
I mean,
is,
when
yeah.
there's a
Jack
raft in the
O'Connell, I
sea,
can't remember what it's called, but yeah,
haven't
it's a
seen
big
it.
feature.
Or something.
Yeah, but part of the invite was a ration pack, which I got when I arrived into the office on Monday morning, hungover and tired from Christmas and New Year festivities.
it?
I ate this weird shortbread, grainy shortbread.
You actually
Buttery
ate
Do you know
sugar.
where it's from?
Yeah,
You ate the show invitation.
no, it was part of the show invitation. It was, you know, I was living it. I was part of it. I
No,
needed to be survival.
We better get
The
him a
office.
raft so you can just like live it full on here.
Yeah, no, being in a shark-infested water on a raft is probably one of my biggest fears.
So I'm looking at that sweater now that's covered in sharks.
Yeah.
And bizarrely, you know, because I work for an Australian publication, thinking, well, that won't sell in Australia. But then it's a sweater, so maybe it's a time when people aren't in the water. Or maybe it shows that you're fearless about sharks if you wear a sweater with sharks on. I have to say, I really don't like them.
Sharks or
Yeah.
sweaters?
No, I like sweaters, but sharks are just
I don't really come into contact with too many. I mean, there's a load of sharks in the industry that I come into contact with.
yeah, they're probably
But
much
yeah,
more
but
friendly.
but
Actually, maybe he's making a deep comment about the
maybe,
fashion industry
could
that
be,
we're all missing
yeah.
here.
But, you know, go back to those kind of sharp print sweaters. It's something that the last few seasons Christopher's kind of seen that those kind of pieces have huge sellability. So I think it's something that he's learned as well.
Yeah.
It's a more rounded collection each season now. I don't know how many looks this show is, but they're big shows now with God knows how many different pieces. Like it's a huge thing. It is a fully rounded brand now, whereas before maybe it was seen as a coat brand.
A coat brand,
And
but no,
very
it's
loud, you know.
definitely way more than that. And from I think season 1 or 2, he started making these animals as almost toys or ornaments. Started off as offcuts of fabric that he would use. So the first one was the dog, the little hound that he had, and it's just followed on every season. So there's always an animal associated with the collection, and that becomes, so he's made for women's wear, he does the little shoulder bags in like Napa leather, and then for men's he turns them into rucksacks or bags. So it's kind of each season there will be some from the animal that.
So do you think there might be a shark bag?
In fact, yeah.
I'm
I
sure
know that there's a shark bag.
Is there a shark bag
Yeah.
coming? Oh, my excitement is rising. I
Yep.
love the recycling thing that he does, though. It's like the really, you know, recycling's still slightly one of those subjects that everyone goes, oh, please, no, don't talk about that. But the fact that he does it in such a elegant way, again, the gentlemanly way, that he's taking life rafts, which are no longer useful. He explained this to me. They are no longer useful for saving lives. He's not like grabbing them from ships and it'll be like the Titanic and there's not enough to go round. They're ones that can no longer be of any use, and then turning them into these great jackets. That's really good recycling.
No, totally. These pieces are pretty nuts. They're actually inflatable.
That's how they look like they are, yeah.
He's been working with some rubber or fetish specialists, and he's managed to make inflatable garments. So he's got inflatable bags and garments. So it's great actually seeing them on people. Cause I've seen a piece on the rail, but actually now seeing people wearing them. Yeah, each piece is actually you blow it up.
So does that work for you guys? Sorry.
You manually sort of blow into it.
I don't know.
Like a life.
Yeah. Whether they come with a pump, I'm not sure.
And is there a whistle for attracting attention?
I think they attract enough attention already.
My friend had a blow-up prawn outfit. Yeah.
It's hard to follow that.
Okay. How to kill a conversation.
So you blew it up and you turned into a prawn.
That's got a bit of a shrimp vibe. Yeah.
There's a shark, yeah.
Oh yeah, there is.
Also, Mr. Chris Lowe was very into the inflatable jackets.
Yeah, we talked about it. This would be perfect.
Yeah.
Very now.
It's weird because it could almost be Walter van Beerendock doing that kind of thing, or have some other brand. So it's quite amazing that Chris has managed to do it and fit it into his style of collection. And because another designer would make it, whether it's more kitsch or more pop or whatever, but somehow he's done an inflatable jacket to fit in with his.
There's something quite salvage as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
About you know, and kind of obviously a life raft is going to have such history behind it and be such a kind of sort of like a modern antique or something in a way, to go along with the modern gentleman.
So when you're seeing this, the two of you that do styling, are you seeing adventures that you could go on? I could do like going through your head now is like, could I go off and sail the seas in a life raft? And
no, so that's the last thing I'm thinking of right now. I hate the ocean. No,
especially when there's sharks in it.
But definitely though. I mean, it is a kind of it's the world that Christopher works in as well. It is kind of being a boy and like dreaming of these things. And I don't know. I mean, I know him quite well, but he doesn't talk to me about any kind of exploits. I don't think he does go and kind of conquer faraway lands, but
he climbs mountains.
Yeah, he does climb mountains.
He likes climbing and
There needs to be a toughness to a coat as well, doesn't there? Like there needs to be, it's a little bit like that. The Yogi idea that he always says about just being able to pick up and go off. You know, with one small bag. With a coat, there's always that idea, I think, like, I mean, obviously there's some very beautiful woolen coats, etc., but they don't have that, almost like you could sleep in this, you know, and so many men's coats are insanely overspecified, like watches, you know, there's a real fetish around massively overspecified coats that, you know, you can, whether it's Patagonia or Stone Island or an acronym or, these kind of specialist makers that will charge you a hell of a lot for some coat that you can be stuck on a glacier somewhere.
You should ever be stuck on a glacier.
But it's nice to know that.
It's cold at fashion shows. So I've got a big Yogi coat that I've had for years that I think, I wouldn't particularly want to sleep under it, but I have been in, cold, huge, great cavernous places in Paris in January. And
anyone that's been to like bread and butter in Berlin in January, God, desolate.
And I think it's perfect for shooting when you're out on shoots. I do a lot of outdoor shoots. The parka the big coat definitely comes in handy. So,
there's just a magic about knowing you are prepared. Like you're here. You can get from A to B and Z whenever you want, in total independence.
And be cosy.
And be cosy.
And there be no stigma attached to it, because quite often, obviously within fashion, the look often goes before comfort or kind of stability. So it's quite good, whether it's here or whatever coat that you have, to be able to know that actually I can still look cool as well as be protected and be cozy.
Well, and I think, but there's also an inherent coolness about that liberty of the protection. You know, like liberty is inherently cool, isn't it? So, if not, you know, it's always really weird now when sometimes I think, oh, I'll be in a taxi or on a tube, and I'm like, God, 5 years ago I would have never considered that acceptable to leave the house and think that.
Your life has changed, Daryoush.
I've changed.
You've changed, man.
From rags to riches.
What? I don't know about riches. Yeah, I could just afford the tube.
It's good.
Uber.
At least progression.
Yeah. No, but it's like, that's not even the point. It's just that before you would, you know, it would have been sacrilege to have impose that on yourself.
Whereas now, or is it now that you just don't care?
Well, because I think when you're young and you just want to go out and you just literally want, and coats are very special at that teenage stage, you just want to go out and you don't really want to care whether you're going to get a taxi or any kind of public transport. And the idea, you know, especially coming back from a club, maybe you've taken things that you shouldn't have taken, or you should have taken, let's face it. And so you've taken all these things, you feel terrible, you've got hardly any, you know, not very much underneath.
I love that you're looking at me saying this. That's so my history.
You know,
That's
it's all
just
about you, it's right.
And you've got,
research, you know,
and you've got the big coat and you wrap it round, you know, and everything's in its place. And that is that teenage adolescent super independence of I'm protected now, and actually it's also military, and actually it's also a barrier against the street, and it's also a disguise, you know. It's kind of, that's the soul of it.
Yeah, I guess my teenage years I'd be more, less is more. You don't want to have the big coat, you want to make sure that the outfits, whatever. Whereas now, happily, have as many layers and more layers than necessary. It's just quite happy to be hidden and go, well, not go unnoticed, but at least be protected.
So what else are we saying about Mr. Raeburn? I feel like, sorry, I've taken us on a terrible... There's lots of the Ocaron blue. It's not really a royal blue, is it? What would you call this blue? It's somewhere
is it
between...
a Klein blue?
It's
or
almost
a
a Klein blue.
Quite Klein, though, is it?
It's hard to say, because I think it is Klein, but because it's
Cobalt.
high sheen. Cobalt.
Maybe it's a sea blue.
Sea blue?
Because he's at sea with this, in a nice way, with this collection.
My friend told me that the trend prediction agencies have been talking about blue a lot for 2015.
Pretty go-to for guys. It's when I talk about colour, it's blue is as colourful as I normally get.
Really?
It's me getting a bit crazy.
So if we
Bit
say
of blue
blue
in
is going to be big this year, is that like when Vogue says coats are big for winter?
I think so, yeah. For guys, I think blue is...
So does that mean you're going to be wearing blue, some Christopher Raeburn blue?
Always blue. Craig Green blue this season. Just hitting stores and all over that. But I don't know, I think he's having a lot more fun this season, I think.
Totally.
You know, I think you can tell that he's... I mean, he was last season with the kind of the desert kind of fabrics that he was using, but this season I think he's even having like... Because I think he's super excited. You can... The excitement he has over the fabric kind of permeates through the whole collection. You know, you can see that. I can see him completely geeking out in my head about finding these raft materials, and then the whole collection just makes sense and kind of fully realised in his brain. And then beyond that, you know, beyond the kind of the blow ups and the raft material itself, he's like having fun with the kind of like the sharks and stuff. I think this is like the real Christopher Raeburn. That's the impression I get from it.
Well, I like the joy that he has as well in the materials and the design, because it's like, you know, so many designers talk about craft, but it's almost like it's a separate thing from their design, whereas you get with him the idea that actually it's almost like he's an engineer, so craft and design are the same.
They're inextricable.
Yeah, which is great, and obviously traditionally in an old-fashioned kind of way, I guess a very, you know, masculine way of thinking about things. No,
I like that he hasn't gone into, I mean, now we've got the play suit, but until that piece, he hasn't gone into sort of silly styling. Because you know there's that thing sometimes that happens in the Paris shows that they get an idea and then it's exaggerated and pushed, and I'm not going to say who, but it just gets to the point that it's a bit, well, that's not very manly.
It's basically London for the last
but this
6 years of London menswear.
They kind of get more London shows.
Yeah.
They kind of get
There's
told to
an
kind
awful
of
lot of
push it to the extremes, and you know it gets like
this is like
Daily
clothes,
Mail and
isn't
like
it?
this is
It's really good. It's
this
clothes,
wouldn't alienate
yeah.
any guy.
No.
Tell me about wearing the. Well, I'm calling it a play
Is it a
suit,
play
but
suit or
might
is
be
it two pieces?
If it's a play suit, it's not very flattering.
I think it's 2 pieces. I don't think I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
No,
so it's
Chris.
a
doing a
sweat
play suit.
shirt.
And if it was a place, it'd be some form of military
Yeah.
overall as opposed to.
Explain
But also,
that
there's
piece
no
to me,
reason why you
gentlemen.
can't. Go on, Steve. I'll let you do it.
And I think you have to, in terms of editorials and getting shot, you have to have some kind of element of, for a different kind of magazine, maybe a more youthful kind of magazine, that would get shot and picked up. So I think, you know, Christopher's clever in that sense,
Yeah.
but he doesn't go crazy on it. He just limits it to a couple of pieces. Same with the kind of the shark sweater and stuff. It's an idea that's put in there, but it's not really explored too deeply. That's not the most fundamental part of the collection. The fundamental part is the raft jackets of the first few looks, and the blow up bags and jackets.
I mean, the raft jackets are, to be fair, quite extreme. I mean, I've seen a lot of kind of, you know, some of my favourite youths of London wearing sort of high vis bin men clothes. The raft jackets are just sort of that in a luxury way. So, you know, I can see, you know, some fabulous prince of the night wearing one of those and looking great.
Well, it's
Sorry.
no, I was going to say, it's that within, whether you look at that, the ship on the Thames, which has done the Dazzle boat, which Chris, I think, did whether it's about 3 seasons
Dazzle
ago, he did
camouflage.
that. It's that point where he's taking the masculine element, but there's enough playfulness within the military kind of sphere where you can actually still have fun with it. But I reckon, the Raft Parkers they'll be a hit editorially, and there'll be enough fashionable, and then those who are like seriously into their protective clothing that would still be happily wear that, because there's loads of brands that will do mad colours, and so therefore you don't have to be a fashionista to be able to wear one of those pieces.
No, it's true. It's like Nigel Caborn, like another king of coats. His like one of his biggest sellers is kind of like a really huge, like acid orange Arctic Parker jacket. I mean, you go up to Newcastle, it's everywhere, and that costs like, you know, a couple of £1,000. It's just like that's like the investment kind of piece out there. But yeah, it will get shot. It will get editorial love, and the hardcore Christopher Raeburn fans, and there are a growing number of them, will be all over that.
Yeah, and I think he's put enough pieces within different kind of sections across the collection to make sure that whether it's the raft pieces or the blow-up pieces or the prints, that it can tick loads of different boxes and get shot in loads of different ways. So
yeah, I think we're seeing that on Christopher. Maybe is a bit further ahead than some other London designers, but this season I've noticed especially that most of the designers that have been kicking around for a few seasons are now really understanding their business and how they can grow it as well. And someone like Christopher's done it for a number of seasons, where he's got these staples that he kind of plays within, but you pretty much know what you're going to get. And it's also, I'm seeing that many other designers are taking that on board as well. Which is, we're seeing, rather than just like promise and design talent, we're actually seeing brands now. Kind of scary in a way as well, from my side, having seen like these bubbling energy of talents and stuff kind of almost growing up. Makes me feel kind of old, but
scary because you think they should still be just doing more playful stuff, or
maybe. But I mean, at the end of the day, we forget sometimes from our side it is a business, and for me, it's great that they're growing their stockist numbers. I'm not sure how many stockists Christopher's got, but
probably loads. I
think he's quite a
crazy amount. Probably one of the most successful, definitely the most successful menswear.
Is he at the stage then that really big companies will be swimming around him like a shark, thinking, we're going to hire you to do consultancies, or we're going to hire you to do like another big brand? I mean, if it was a women's wear label, let's say you'd be being picked up to do Givenchy or you know, one of those big brands. Does that happen to menswear in the same way? I mean, I know it happened to Kim Jones.
Well,
but
in the kind of coat world, you have Elliot and Hugh, who's just been put in charge of ACG at Nike, and he did the Shadow project with Stone Island.
So where could Christopher go? What's the kind of dream arc for someone like him?
Well, he's already been there a little bit in the sense that he's I don't know if he still is, but creative director at Victorinox, and then he also did Moncler for a couple of seasons. So that's the kind of level of brand which you associate, like a CP or Stone Island, that are renowned for their kind of outerwears. They do full collections, but outerwear is what you know them for. And yeah, so the Moncler, he did Moncler for a few seasons.
Yeah.
So
I think ultimately he wants to grow his own brand more than work for anyone else. I think he has that kind of self-belief. I think everything, you know, whenever I speak to him, he kind of, it's kind of infectious, the belief that he has within himself and within the brand as well.
But the other beliefs that he brings with it are actually really great, healthy beliefs. That his belief in business, that's something that, you know, when I've spoken to him, it's quite a serious conversation. You know, I work for a serious business magazine, but the two things that I've come away with, besides his kind of innate elegance, is that, yeah, he has a lot of ambition, so I wanted to make sure that I was kind of getting that right.
Yeah.
But also his thing about recycling and the ethical thing that I'm really into, he'll suddenly go, oh, look at the lining inside this jacket, and it will be beautiful old naval maps that used to be done on silk, and he bought up all the silk, and then of course once he did it, everyone else was trying to get the silk. But the tragic end of that story is apparently now the Navy print them on polyester, so it didn't quite end the way that he'd hoped. But
that's the thing, he's managed to grow his business. You know, the way that he recycles and the world that he works in, it's kind of almost like a cottage industry. It's very, very small, like numbers wise, but he managed to kind of balance that, which is a big part of what he does.
Yeah.
And grow his business exponentially in the last number of seasons. I'm not sure how he's done it. He's some kind of magician on that level, because, yeah, in terms of the parachute fabrics and the raft, they can't be huge numbers, but he manages to make it work, and grow at the same time.
Well, for the recycle thing, it's not a trend, whereas a lot of brands will kind of dally with certain things, and it'll be like, oh, we might do this because it might get us some press, but it's at the core of what he does, so therefore it's what he believes in. So each season in, season out, he's going to keep doing it and finding new ways that he can do it. And it's not the whole collection, so he doesn't need to try and do a 30-piece collection where it's all recycled, because that could never effectively work, because he does it in limited runs. But
well, it's awfully dull when it's the headline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, here I've recycled these T-shirts. Please buy them. It's like, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah, all of those words like ethical or environmental or charity, or
people switch off. People generally switch off and leave
no matter how passionate you actually are about them, you just go, please, no, just show me clothes. But the great thing is he shows clothes, and yet they've got all these other good messages.
It's added features. You know?
Yeah, and then you're into it. You still got lust, I guess.
Yeah, you've got to. Otherwise,
you've got to want it.
Yeah. And it always, it seems, I mean, I remember as a tutor sort of almost banning ethical fashion as a kind of, because I never quite worked out intellectually how anything that how it quite could be ethical, because it built in obsolescence and the elitism.
That's another debate. That's a bigger debate than coats, perhaps. But
any closing thoughts then, guys?
I think we've just been on a kind of awfully big adventure. It's been rather enjoyable going to
just
see
in a Christopher Raeburn coat.
Yeah. For me, it's just the fun element. Still kind of amazed by the blow up pieces, the technicality, and the rest of the collection. I know it's definitely there, but for shoot purposes, definitely. There'll be a lot of underwater shoots coming out with models floating with these pieces. So, I probably would wear the orange parka. Or Chris, if you're watching, orange parka. This season, when they're made, please.
Yeah, it's one of those things that there's a couple of pieces you just want to instantly try on. I think ultimately that's what we all do what we do, because we're fans of it, you know. And Chris is, in this collection, has at least got a few pieces that I kind of want to try on, you know, run to his studio and try and straight away.
Well, I think as well, what perhaps in photos doesn't quite come across the way they come across on the rail, and the sheer like, I need this. It's just such beautiful objects of wanting to wear them.
Yeah, like the raft material. Is it super heavy or is it super lightweight? I don't know. You know, in my mind it looks like it's.
I've never quite
midweight,
been able to work out, because there's something gorgeous about the weight, but at the same time, there's something nice about not. It's very confusing. The question of weight and outerwear is really complex. It's because it's, you know, you just, it's like they I don't know, which do you prefer?
I like
you
to be
said
surprised.
earlier, sorry, but I didn't. But you said earlier it's like a protection. When you did that, that needs weight, doesn't it? When you're
It does.
when you pull something.
But
out
you
of
can
it.
be protected like these kind of. The protection will come from the air, so those jackets will be super lightweight. So it's quite nice. And like, you know, you feel
I
like
think
you're
there is a
floating.
pea coat in there, by the way.
I think you
I'm
want.
sure this pea coat
Got
keeps
it in
going
there.
by.
I think you
And
often
everyone's just
want.
ignoring it.
Yeah, you're all ignoring it. 'Cause
Whatever,
you don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
they're in
Yeah.
fashion. There
It's
it
too
is.
elegant.
It's
Too
coming
elegant.
back.
Yeah.
I think
It's a
you
very
often
elegant
want
piece.
weight and not bulk,
That's why you need a pea coat.
perhaps.
Yeah, I hate wear. Personally, I would not wear something that's bulky. Anything that kind of makes me wider and appear shorter. But no, I think that the raft jacket I'm most intrigued by. I want to try that on. I want to see that.
I want to know how many shark sweaters he sells to Australia.
Probably none.
Okay, well, thank you very, very, very much on
All
this
good.
Saturday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.